everybody. Hello, Future Proof. Thank you for the intro, Blair. I'm Megan Kelly, and I lead a research team at Fidelity's Center for Applied Technology. So we call it FCAT, and in FCAT, we are tasked with looking at the future. Imagine that. And we scan for signals, and we seek out opportunities to understand the trends and technologies that we think will have the most impact on our industry's future. And then what we do is we build. We find these technologies, we build, we experiment, we run POCs to really deeply understand them so that we're ready for what's coming. And we've been at this work for about 25 years. In fact, we're celebrating our 25-year anniversary this month. And we've constantly been pushing the learnings and the conversations ahead for our internal leadership. So that would start it out, when we were thinking about mobile and preparing for the world of apps and all the wearable devices and the watches, and then started helping the firm think about the communication on social networks and how is this going to evolve in our industry and what to listen for and also what to contribute. All the way to our early work in crypto, also born in FCAT along with other colleagues around the firm, to now where we're looking at advanced computing strategies and the future of things like quantum computing. So it's a wide span, but in our research team, what we do is we always look for the intersections, right? So yes, we're the Applied Technology Center, but we're looking for where technology meets society at the key moment, because only then will any of these tools have outsized impact. And what's really important to us is that we're understanding how people are changing, because without that, nothing's going to happen if you have big tech. So we think a lot about people. So if we're going to talk about something like AI, for example, and who isn't, right? We actually have to talk first about ourselves and understand how we all are changing. And who are those 100 million people that tried ChatGPT those first 2 months we all heard about, right? And who are the 400 million people that are monthly active users of Meta's AI assistant right now? How are they all changing? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you about some of the sociocultural trends that we're seeing right now, we're most interested in. And then we'll come back around to technology within this 20 minutes, and we'll see if we can have a new lens on what we're thinking about here. So let's start by talking about people with some data, and let's talk about babies. There are not as many being born as there were in years past, right? So birth rates are falling. And we know this, everybody has heard this stat. In fact, the US hit and matched actually a record historic low in birth rate just last year. So this is happening here in this country and just about everywhere. This is not just a high-income developed country story at this point. In fact, a lot of researchers estimate that just last year, now absolutely every country is below replacement levels. So this is obviously a big deal because what this means, for many other reasons, but to us what we think about it means that families are getting smaller around the world. So here's a stat, here's a chart, and it shows the number of living relatives of an average woman age 65 in many of these different countries. And these researchers published in the proceedings from the Academy of Sciences. Now, what this tells us, what I find interesting, is that in 1950, the average American woman, age 65, had about 35 living relatives. Okay? And then roughly by 2100, that number will halve to 18. So picture your 35-person Thanksgiving table. Take out a lot of those seats, about half of them. You have 18 people at the table. And keep in mind that those 18 are not young children. They are not babies, or a lot of them. Okay? And so what we're looking at is we're having fewer children born, and family trees are changing shape. The size and the shape of family trees is changing. Right? So we have family trees that are getting taller. They're getting stretched out. And in this sense, we know the longevity story right now, right? We know that there are people living longer, and so there will be more older people at the top of your family tree. And we also know that there are, so it's getting taller. We have more people living longer, but we also have more people, fewer people born. So it's shrinking. So there are implications here, of course, right? So we have fewer children born to take care of more older people. So we have fewer siblings and cousins, right? So that constricting family tree creates more caregiving on more single children, if they have children at all. So complexities of long-term care planning, of course, estate planning. What are all the other complications and things that are going to be happening as a result here? So we think a lot about that. We also think about the changes in, so caregiving, but also the changes in your extended family. So you have aunts and uncles with no children, and more of them, of those people, right? So here we have the choices that a aunt or uncle might be making about their financial legacies and the decisions around their charitable intentions. Maybe that whole scene changes. Maybe they're going to be incorporating their nieces and nephews or not. And how do you accommodate that thinking and get to know these aunts and uncles that are going to be part of this great wealth transfer that is now upon us, right? We've been talking about it for years. It's now upon us. We have to think about this extended network. So the idea that your clients will also have other people beyond their household, this shape and size of the family trees basically matters to us now. It matters how we structure our data now. It matters how we name and designate beneficiaries. And then, are we really prepared for even knowing beyond people's household? Who are the extended, maybe not even related family members that are going to be part of this financial transfer conversation because of all these shape dynamics? So, this reflects the fact that there are fewer babies being born. We talked about this part, right? This is reflecting a different set of choices. It's not just that there are fewer kids being born. There are more people choosing to have no kids by choice. And I realize that that's not always a choice for some people, and I see that and I honor that. But generally speaking, there are more people proactively choosing to not have children. And this is one small signal amidst a series of new paths that we're watching. So we're calling it new paths to adulthood. What does this really mean? And what we're seeing is we're kind of watching this reshaping of what was really once thought of as a pretty traditional linear path, right? You grow up, you go to school, you graduate, you get a job, you hustle, you get married, you have a kid. End of story. Kind of flip, right? But we know that path. And in this industry, we've built advice models and investment products all around this very linear path. Model portfolios, asset allocation strategies, the obvious target date funds, right? What's happening, though, is people are reconsidering these milestones. And many Americans are treating them as really kind of a mix and match buffet. They're kind of reordering steps, throwing in some different milestones. They're skipping steps entirely. And this is not just people going back to school later in life. We hear a lot about that. But just kind of shaking things up and not making their own paths through life. We see survey upon survey of people, younger generations, acknowledging that having kids and getting married is not necessarily on the critical path of steps to have a fulfilling life. They're new definitions of fulfillment. And what's interesting to us is to watch how to accommodate that kind of whole space. So instead of seeing student debt, instead of engagement parties with family members, we're seeing student debt payoff parties with friends. And it seems like instead of actually we see lots of retirement celebrations, and then many times there's a job announcement right after that, right? Or a new consulting business. So people are just rethinking what they're doing with their time and how they're shaping it. And I think a lot of people suggest that, this is also happening in a broader context, and there are lots of macro implications of this. One, of course, labor force participation and rethinking when and how to work. The share of wives who earn as much or more as their husbands has more than tripled in the last 50 years. So people are it's not just the next gen, right? We're in this moment of reprioritizing what we're up to and why. So what's interesting about that, though, is that perhaps you see the headlines about, and actually there have been a lot of them lately, about younger generation wanting to sprinkle kind of mini retirements throughout their career, or take breaks, and we're accommodating that in our new models. Or rising attrition rates or something, and you have this kind of doom scroll world of, oh, we're losing our ambition. It's over. But what if we decided that instead of thinking of ambition as achieving those milestones that we heard about forever, it's actually more about achieving a different set of goals. And that's what we're looking at here. People are redefining ambition. And increasingly, definitions of wealth include things like experiences and time and health and all these other things that come along with fulfillment. And so how do we reposition our conversations around this? So there's one survey that recently came out where it said, what does it mean? It was of small business owners, and they asked, what should the following indicates that you've achieved the American dream? So this is small business owners. And you see things like living a comfortable lifestyle, freedom to pursue my own passions, owning your own home, and being my own boss were farther down the list. And I think that's very interesting, like these symbols of wealth and net worth and all the things that were kind of socially validated as signals of success are being amplified or added to. That is not the dominant signal of wealth any longer. So feeling happy, freedom to pursue my own passions, all of this comes along with this reprioritization. Now, it's not happening, everywhere, but at large. But I would say that it's a signal we're tracking very seriously. And so this applies not just to your clients across the board, but I also think we should all be thinking about this for our talent, right? What kind of benefits are we going to need to offer to attract and retain that next top hire? And what kind of training are these advisors going to need to extrapolate and guidance and have these deeper level conversations to talk about new priorities with their clients? Now, all of that to say, I said this was going to come back around to technology, right? So let's take a step on how do shrinking families, how do these shifting priorities and reprioritization apply to help us give a lens onto how a tool like AI might be adopted. And I think what it's kind of simply put is that generative AI in particular, and I will be adamant in emphasizing that AI is not a new space. There's not, this is building on decades of machine learning and natural language processing and natural language generation. This is not a news story, but the scale and the breadth and the access and the sophistication of these tools, and you've heard them all over the festival already and from our next speaker on this very stage, these tools are going to help us be freer to pursue these new ambitions. And that's the real story here. Right? So let's think about some examples in the last few minutes here. One, learning. Right? We've all sat in these massive lecture halls. We've all completed an online training course, right? Probably at 11:59 the night before compliance says you have to. But imagine a digital assistant driven by some of the newer technologies that is proactive, it's personalized, as we've all heard about. It's adapting the course content to your needs. It's transforming into a learning language that works for me. I'm a visual thinker. Okay, I'm not getting this concept. Show it to me in a picture. That is so easy to do now, and it's amazing what the implications will be in education. My 8-year-old daughter has an AI math tutor, and the responsiveness, it's wild to watch this interaction. Commerce. So your clients are going to have new ways to operate their business, just like you all are and we all are, right? New ways to merchandise their wares, new ways to find clients of their own, new ways to prepare, well, first to find job opportunities, to curate and scour and collect and scan, but also new ways to prepare for that interview, that conversation. We're seeing a lot of simulation and role play and prep to have conversations, which we're thinking a lot about and doing a lot of work at Fidelity around using these tools. Really interesting. And lastly, for your clients, they're going to be running their own homes more efficiently using these tools, whether it's bills or paperwork or paying their own taxes or managing some of these multiple income streams that we know are happening. And these tools are coming to help you as well, right? We're humans. We're all in this. We're all changing our ambitions. We have new jobs to be done. And the three categories that we're paying the most attention to in the advisor space right now in our research team are the ones that you see here, the portfolio construction analysis. Let me talk to my portfolio. I'm sure there are lots of examples here that you've heard about. Interrogating the content, what is available to me, how can I gain information and insight. The regulatory and compliance awareness, of course, help me manage the scale, this massive legislative output. You know, how do I understand the deltas? What are the implications? And then tell me what to do and generate that next step. And then, of course, client communications, which you just heard about and we'll hear lots more about today that I don't need to get into right now. But lots of different solutions here, really leveraging these technologies. I think the key message is that, yes, they're emerging tech that's going to have enormous change for all of us, offer enormous opportunities to do our jobs better. But the key point is that understanding the people and how we're changing will help us leverage those technologies in more strategic ways, right? So it's going to free us, it'll free all of you up to have the space to enter and the time to enter these higher purpose conversations, to really talk with your clients, to get to those reshifting priorities and understand at a deeper level and have more meaningful conversations and prepare for those more effectively and train your next generation of talent to do the same. Because the whole space is really about leveraging technology to have humans helping other humans thrive. And that's what we remain committed to at Fidelity. That's what we're thinking a lot about in this research team, and leveraging the technology to help be able to do that. And that's the message from FCAT Research. I'm so glad to have joined you all. I would love to chat more about this here at the festival. And thank you so much, and thank you, Future Proof.